Recently, we went bargain hunting for home decor in Amsterdam, and in this video, we're taking you along. Now, this was our first time in Amsterdam, so we also had some great food and saw some sights, and we'll show you those as well. But from vintage shops to flea markets to thrift stores, we'll show you some of our favorite places for bargain hunting in Amsterdam.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Dawn.
And we're the unretirees. And last year, instead of taking the traditional retirement path, instead we chose to live and work abroad from the Silver Coast of Portugal. And this channel is about living abroad, flexible streams of income, and travel over 50. If this is a sort of content you're interested in, we'd encourage you to click the like button, subscribe, and click the bell so that you're notified of any new videos that we have coming up.
You can also follow us on Instagram, and we have a free weekly newsletter. We'll leave the links for both of those in the description below.
So we were only in Amsterdam for a few days, and so we didn't get to see or do everything that we wanted. But we'd love to hear from you. If you've been to Amsterdam or even live in Amsterdam, what are the things that you're excited about seeing or doing there? Just add it in the comments below.
So on the first day, we had to head down to the flower market, which is an absolute must in Amsterdam. And it was beautiful. However, there were a lot of influencers trying to get the same shot, but it was still a really great experience. Next, we headed to New Spiegelstraat, and I apologize in advance to all of our Dutch friends watching. If I butcher that, I'm sure I did. But this is a street that is filled with antique shops. Some of these shops have been around for generations, and many of them specialize in just one thing. So it's well worth spending a day and just wandering through each of them. Here's where we went. We started at Kramer Kunst and Antique, and what this is an antique shop that's been in business for about 60 years. It's pretty well known. It's a small shop, but it's beautiful and well organized. They have an impressive collection of old Dutch tiles, Delft blue pottery, crystal and silver, some art and jewelry, and we really enjoyed their pocket watch collection as well. Now, along the same street, we visited Antiquariat Hug Camp. And this is a store that sells vintage art and maps, and it's owned by Peter. He's owned the shop for 40 years. He's a painter, and he sells some of his own work there in the shop. And he did this custom calligraphy with both of our names, and he told us sort of the symbolism behind it. We did end up paying him 20 euros, and it was a really great experience. So the next place we headed was Waterlooplein. Now, this is famous as the oldest flea market in Amsterdam. It runs Monday through Saturday year-round. Now, when we were there, it was mostly clothes, including these vintage furs. I have no idea if those were real. And this wasn't exactly what we were looking for, so this was a pass for us. I think if you're here in summer, maybe there's more vendors or more selection, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time here. The next place we headed was the Spoy Book and Art Market. Now, this is an outdoor market of old, rare, secondhand, and out-of-print books, also vintage art. It's been going on for about 20 years, and there are about 25 vendors. It runs every Friday. Now, they had some interesting finds here, including this red French book of cliches, which wasn't what I thought it was. Now, this market did have some unusual finds, but we did see a lot of vintage books all over Amsterdam. So if you're not here on a Friday, there are lots of other options. So the next place that we went to was Antique Centrum. This place is absolutely massive, and if I'm honest, a little overwhelming. But everything, fortunately, was very well organized by section. Now, this store has a huge selection of vintage silver, toys, vases, and lots and lots and lots. If I was looking for vintage jewelry in Amsterdam, this would absolutely be at the top of my list, but it wasn't really what we were looking for. Most of the items here were under lock and key, and that's totally understandable to prevent theft, but it was a pretty inefficient shopping process. We didn't see a lot of staff around to help if there was something that we wanted to see in one of the cases. I think vintage shopping is all about sort of touching and feeling and picking things up, and we weren't really able to do that there. However, it is an incredible store. There were thousands of small items. If you're looking for something specific, you could easily spend hours browsing the store, especially if you're looking for jewelry.
Well, after a morning of shopping, we were ready for a break, and so we booked a boat tour or a canal tour. So we booked a small group tour of about 10 or maybe it was 12 people, and it was a canal boat that also had wine and cheese and other snacks on board. And the tour was about 2 hours going through all of the various canals in this central part of Amsterdam, and it really was a great experience. We got a bit of history and explanation from the captain, Captain Moses, and we would absolutely do a boat tour or a canal tour again. It cost us about 60 euros each for this tour. It felt a little long. It was about 2 hours and probably 90 minutes maybe would have been a better time, but it really was very, very good. Well, so after the boat tour, which again was great, we went back to the hotel and got a rest, and then we went out to dinner at a restaurant called Choux. Choux is described as modern French, and it's typically a 5-course chef's tasting menu, and it features mostly seafood. Now, in our experience, we ended up with the 4-course tasting menu. We went a little bit early to their theater dining experience for people who are planning to go out. We plan to go out to see some jazz afterwards, but honestly, we were just too tired. We went back to the hotel after dinner. But we went to the 4-course menu. But Dawn, what did you think of Choux?
I thought it was really great. A shout out, first of all, to the staff because they were phenomenal. I thought the food was good. I kept thinking this tastes like spring on a plate. It tasted like all of the produce was fresh out of the garden. And again, this was late November. And so that was really impressive. The restaurant is also filled with jars all over the restaurant of different items that they're fermenting that they use to flavor the food. And so we had, for dessert, we had, I can't remember if it was a whipped cream or an ice cream that was infused with the flavor of hay, which was my first time, but I thought it was a great experience. What did you think?
Yeah, it really was a great experience. I'm not a big seafood eater. You know, when you go to something like this, you're just making a decision. You're going to eat anything that they put in front of you. And everything was really, really, it was delicious. Everything, as Dawn said, it was like spring. Everything was bright and light, and it was really amazing. And the staff was fantastic. This is absolutely a 10 out of 10 recommendation. It's a little pricey, so this is a special event kind of place to go to, but it is worth it.
Yeah. So the next morning we headed to the Noord area of Amsterdam, or the North area, and we ended up finding 2 of our favorite shops for this trip. The first one was Die Locatie, which is a thrift store. There's actually 3 locations in Amsterdam. We went to the largest one, which is more than 26,000 square feet over 2 floors. Our experience of this store was fantastic. Great selection, great prices, great quality. Here's an example of a few of the things that really stood out for us. For example, there was this buffet, solid wood buffet, and it was absolutely gorgeous, and it was 285 euros, I believe. There was also this leather yellow club chair that could be cleaned up. This was only 60 euros. And then there was this armoire, which is not our style, not something we would buy, but I was still so impressed with it. It looked brand new, it was huge, and it was only 385 euros, which you just can't find something like this brand new in a furniture store these days like this. So we were really impressed. Now, we didn't end up buying anything, but if I was ever bargain hunting in Amsterdam again, I would definitely want to go to all 3 of these stores. I just really thought the selection and the pricing there was great.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, the things that Dawn mentioned, the buffet and the armoire and the chair, really fantastic buys. I don't know what shipping would be to get it from there to here. But certainly if we were in Amsterdam trying to furnish a place, this would be it. And if we were buying smaller things that we could pack in luggage, this would be a great place to stop by.
Yeah. Our next stop was Van Dyck & Co., or Van Dyck, I think is the correct way to say it, but this is also in Noord. It's a short walk away from Die Locatie. This is mostly vintage furniture. They also have some home accessories. Like the other place, this was also an absolutely huge store. Most of the items were in that Dutch farmhouse style. If farmhouse is your style, you would absolutely love it here. Now, again, we didn't end up buying anything here. Farmhouse isn't really the style that we were going for, but I have to say, I don't know what it was about this store. I loved the experience of being there. I could have spent all afternoon there. It's just a really great store. Probably one of my favorites that we went to on this trip.
It's huge, as Dawn mentioned, but it's cavernous. The ceilings are, 30 feet tall and made of glass, and so it's very light and bright, but freezing cold in the winter there. There's so many sort of places to walk around and things. I don't want to say that they have things hidden, but there's so many things to see that are just so unusual and different. It was really a fun place to be. Mm-hmm. Well, so after this vintage shopping, we went to a photography museum called Huy Marseille in the old part of Amsterdam again. And it's housed in two 17th century canal houses, the houses were built by a French merchant in 1665. Now, I don't remember much about the exhibit, but the houses, the canal house itself was just beautiful. And honestly, it was well worth the ticket price just to wander around an old multi-story canal house like that. So after a break back at the hotel, we headed back out and we went to the Amsterdam Light Festival. It's an every year festival from late November till mid-January where they have a theme and lights that they put around the canals within the old part of Amsterdam. Each year there's a different theme and there's different works, and it's about a 4-mile route through the canals, so you could walk it, or what we chose to do was to take an evening boat tour through the canals during the Light Festival. Now, there are several types of boat tours you could take. You could get a covered heated boat. You could get a covered heated boat with food and wine. You could get an open boat, or you could get a private boat. So we bundled up and we took an open boat tour because we thought it would be best just for photos and videos. Now, from our experience, it really was one of the highlights of this trip. For me, the Light Festival part was good, but it was really the most fun was just going through the canals and being able to look into the houses and the lights of those canal houses. That experience was just phenomenal. What did you think?
Well, keep in mind that this is the holidays in Amsterdam, so the Light Festival is not the only lights in Amsterdam at this time. Like the whole downtown area or whatever, the historic area is lit up. So it is beautiful and magical, and I think it was great. I don't think that we would have done an open boat tour again. It did get a little bit cold, I think, if we did it again. And I don't know that it really mattered for photo and video. I think if we wanted photos and videos of the Light Festival again, we would have walked and then taken a heated canal tour, maybe with some wine or something. But it was a really great experience. And as Matt said, I think the best part was being able to look into some of these old canal homes at night, and they were really, really beautiful.
Well, so overall on our trip to Amsterdam, what were your thoughts about it?
Well, again, this was our first time in Amsterdam, and it, as a city, was every bit as cool as I expected Amsterdam to be. We really enjoyed it. I think in most places like this where it's walkable and compact, it can feel like after a few days, like, oh, you know, we're done, we've done it. But that was not the case in Amsterdam. There was so much more that I wanted to see. I could easily spend a month there. What about you?
Well, I thought it was great. I mean, there's a couple of things. First off, Amsterdam is very flat, so to your point, it is a very walkable city. It's very close to the airport. It was easy to get from the airport into downtown Amsterdam, which I thought was great. If you get a hotel that's in one of the canal houses like we had, it can be a challenge if you've got any mobility issues because most of them don't have elevators, and ours did not have an elevator, so we had narrow, uneven steps with crooked floors. It was a beautiful hotel. We love the hotel. The staff there was great. But the fact that there were just no elevators and it was a difficult staircase to climb up was not a high point for us. But Amsterdam itself was beautiful. It was well lit. It felt very safe. There were so many things to do and see. I mean, I think for us, it is a place that we're going to want to go back to.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple of tips for visiting Amsterdam if it's your first time, like it was for us, some things that we wish we would have known ahead of time. Number one, Matt mentioned the stairs. It is seems like a really good idea to stay in a canal house because they're beautiful and of course right on the canal. But there are some challenges, again, if you have any mobility issues, something to think about. I would also say that a lot of the restaurants that we wanted to go to, we were not able to get into. Now, we did make reservations at Shoe and at Barbout, which was another restaurant we enjoyed, but some of the breakfast and especially lunch places that we really wanted to go to, there are no reservations and there was a long line. And this was the end of November. We were there before the Lights Festival started. So we didn't expect to wait or to have any problems getting into any restaurants. And I can't even imagine what that's like in peak season. So just know that if you want to get into some of these better known restaurants, places like the Pantry was one that we tried to get into, that it will take a little bit longer. You might be out in the cold for a little bit. The other thing, which I think everybody knows about Amsterdam, but it's just different when you experience it, is that you got to look alive at all times because there's bikes coming and going from all directions. But I do want to say just one thing about the people in Amsterdam. We did not encounter a single rude person in all of Amsterdam. They are so polite. And in fact, we talked to one young man. He was 27. He grew up in Amsterdam. It's the only place he's ever lived. And he said, I could count on one hand the number of rude people I have met in Amsterdam in my entire life. And my response, of course, was, well, we're New Yorkers, so we meet 5 rude people before breakfast. But really remarkable. I do just want to say how surprising it was that everywhere we went, everybody was so nice, so polite, and I'm sure there's lots of layers to that culturally, but we really enjoyed that.
We sure did. And if you've been to Amsterdam, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it and the places that for you are must-see places. You can add those in the comments below.
And if you want to see our video on bargain hunting in Lisbon, watch this next video.